Well, good afternoon. So glad that all 100 children that zoom in with we one more again. This is zooming in on sustainability. This year, the Queen Quet, head from the body of the Gullah Geechee Nation. And I so glad for day year with 100 children this year day. Oh, yeah. You know this year we 17th episode and thing like that. Tanky for all 100 children who join we on Wednesdays and thing like that. Shri. But rather was the 100 children would have watched this year thing on Gullah Geechee TV. So make sure you subscribe. It's free. Go on to GULLAHGEECHEE.tv. And then after this year, you can see this year again and again, and you can embed them, you can camera them, you can tweet them, you can do all kind of things like that. But then for let other rest of people, yet it will be the crack we teach about right here. So before we get going today, I want to take a moment of silence like we always do on this year program for all them children who are in harm's way right now. We got 5 named storms in the Atlantic and in the Gulf and everywhere. We got them where we most done use up the alphabet over here, and they're going into the Greek alphabet soon and things like that. And so last time they were going on, they were back in 2015 with her in 2005 when Hurricane Katrina been around 15 years ago. So this year day while we did, yeah, people did down in the Gulf and thing, they try for hold on and for try for sustain a land, a family, and a sanity right now as Sally making it way true. And we even got rain your in the Gullah Geechee Nation for true. So right now we could do what we always do. And let we take a moment of silence and pray for the families and things like that. They stay safe, they be healthy, and that everybody's life be all right. Ashe, ashe, ashe. So for all 100 children, whenever you the people are cracking teeth like this and thing like that, and scared for dear, because y'all ain't sure if this show gonna be like this show all the way through, I'm gonna let you know we can speak your language too. So definitely, I'm Queen Quet, I'm Chieftess and head of state for the Gullah Geechee Nation. I'm also the founder of the Gullah Geechee Sea Island Coalition. We have been fighting to sustain Gullah Geechee land and our lifestyle on these lands from Jacksonville, North Carolina to Jacksonville, Florida for over 2 decades as an organization that helps sponsor the show. But I have spent 4 decades plus now fighting for my tradition, my cultural heritage, and our land to be sustained. One of the things that dawns my walls, or I should say many things that dawn my walls in my home, are actually awards that I got when I was in grade school for speaking out on behalf of the environment. At that time, there was no talk of global warming. There was no talk of climate change. These terms and things like that didn't exist, but the word erosion did. The word conservation did. So a lot of the contests I would win were about conservation, conserving the land, conserving the environment, and making sure that our quality of life and the quality of life of the creatures in the water would remain for future generations. So I'm proud to know that my teachers knew something or saw something that I didn't see at the time, because I didn't want to do those contests. I didn't want to write those speeches. I didn't want to do it. I wanted them to send somebody else. But they were like, you are the one that's going to do it. You're going to represent our class, or you're going to represent our school. You're doing it. And I would bring home the gold every time. And so it's wonderful to still have those awards. And then, like they say, hindsight is 2020. Here we are in 2020, when I can reflect back and recognize now what my teachers were trying to encourage. And I was a person that was involved in what y'all call now STEM and STEAM, science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. I'm a computer scientist and mathematician by degrees, but I love the arts, and I'm the artivist. So in my work as an artivist, or the artivist, because I created that term to describe myself and what I do, I've come across many organizations that had similar vision about what we want to do for this coast. One of those groups focuses on science and works heavily with universities. And so then they start also working with federal agencies and state agencies like NOAA. No, not the one with the ark. I know y'all say it's raining, it's hurricanes, it's flooding, so Queen trying to be funny. No, I don't mean that NOAA, not the biblical NOAA. We're talking about the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration of the United States. We call it NOAA, NOAA. And so we started engaging. I've worked on projects with NOAA. I've been a consultant on things for our coasts and our islands. And in the midst of the work that I've done as founder of the Gullah Geechee Sea Island Coalition, I started finding overlaps and meeting certain people in the same places all the time. And we're the ones talking about these issues and how it's important. It's not a secondary thought. It's not something that someone should add to the agenda at the last minute. It's not what you put under new business. It's continuing business of keeping our environment sustained because of erosion, because of sea level rise, because of droughts, because of people overbuilding into the marsh and us needing working waterfronts and keeping cultural heritage alive on our coast. So I have been enjoying working with a number of different folks over the years that work for a group called Sea Grant. The first Sea Grant that I knew about is in my home, right? South Kakalaki. So I thought we just had South Carolina Sea Grant until I started being engaged with the National Adaptation Forum and various conferences. And then I'm getting invited to things and they're like, no, we're North Carolina Sea Grant. We're Georgia Sea Grant. We're Florida Sea Grant. I'm like, oh, so Sea Grant ain't special as South Kakalaki. They got them all over the country. They were like, right. I was like, okay. So I started engaging even more with various levels of Sea Grant, various state folks as partners to work on our coast together and to build up sustainability and to make it more resilient, right? In the midst of all these climate change dynamics and a bunch of overbuilding and some poorly placed projects along our coast. So it's been very interesting to work with this person that I have known for 2 decades. And I feel like they actually owe me a little paycheck from South Carolina Sea Grant. I really feel like I ought to be getting a pension from them because I've worked with them so long. But I'm going to bring on one of our members of the Gullah Geechee Sustainability Think Tank, who's actually about to retire on us from Sea Grant, and that's their South Carolina Sea Grant Executive Director, Rick DeVoe. How honored to do, Rick?
Oh, doing very well, Queen. Thank you for having me as part of this zooming in on sustainability effort. I really appreciate the opportunity. Thanks.
Yeah, I'm so happy that you have a chance because I know so-called normal times, or shall we say in the olden days, right, back in January, February, right, last year, you and I didn't have a lot of time to just sit down and see each other face to face, except at our annual Coastal Coaches Conference. And we'd have the think tank meetings, or you'd invite me over for something you all were doing with Sea Grant. So has it slowed down for you or has it sped up? Because I feel like with all the Zooming folks doing, folks started moving like that too.
It is zooming. It is sped up. There's a lot going on. The less travel we do, the more time we have to do things and to communicate with each other. It just seems like that the challenge is to be able to work in 2 dimensions with people, but also try to achieve the same thing. Face-to-face interaction, there's nothing better than that.
I know
to be effective in communication and developing relationships and developing that trust and with each other. It really takes that in-person connection. But I think what's good about our respective communities is the fact that we have great networks. We know lots of people.
Yes.
We've developed those and we nurture those networks, and that we keep, so when people turn over, it's not just DeVoe, it's Sea Grant. It's going to be somebody else, and we're going to continue those connections in the future so we don't lose those. And that's really the essence of making making these efforts work, I think.
Absolutely, I agree with you. And when you talk about that, there'll still be Sea Grant. A lot of people, unlike me, right, never heard of Sea Grant.
Right.
And then when they hear the word grant, they probably figure, oh, y'all give out money, right?
Money.
You know, but tell them, what is Sea Grant and how come there are so many of them?
All right, I will tell you that. I'm going to use an analogy, and I think many people I would expect know about their local county agents, people who work with farmers and others to help them with their fields. They represent something called land grant institutions. And in South Carolina, our land grant institution is Clemson.
Clemson, right,
and
absolutely.
There's also an 1890 program, and it's called 1890 because it was created in 1890, the year 1890, at South Carolina State University, and they have land grant responsibility as well.
HBCU in the building.
That's exactly right.
Yes.
And that HBCU is actually a member of my board of directors. Actually, my consortium member institutions. The chairman of SU is James Clark, who's now my board chairman. So I actually work for him right now, at least for the next small bit of time. But my point is that land grant was created in the mid-1800s to help serve farmers, to bring the universities to the field, so to speak, to get that knowledge, to generate new knowledge, to be able to build, but to grow and harvest better crops, improve over time. So that model has worked for a century and a half, and it's a good model. It's a big program. It's all over the country. All the states and the islands have that. So back in the early 1960s, there was some talk about creating a College of the Seas, SEAS, and so several leaders, including Claiborne Pell, who's a senator from Rhode Island, and some others, Fritz Hollings from South Carolina, senator, got together and created this idea of a sea grant program, and so an analogy to land grant, and so our job is to do the same thing: bring the universities to the coast, bring universities to the ocean, bring it to the seas, bring that expertise and make it real to real people.
Right.
That's the way I phrase it. And it's been a really good model. It's really taking a federal asset, the interest of NOAA to be able to understand the world and the oceans and the coast and how they work, and how that affects people. But what Sea Grant does and what land grant does is bring the expertise to the local level. And why there are so many land grant institutions and so many cooperative extension agents and so many Sea Grant programs and so many Sea Grant extension personnel, and then all the faculty you consider with the hundreds and hundreds of universities involved,
right.
It's a way to make the connection between the top and the grassroots. And that's what the program does. We're doing work, we hope, that's relevant to people who live, work, and play along the coast. And that's our role.
Well, I think that you all have done an excellent job in actually bringing that mission to life. And I say that because I've worked with you, of course, and been someone that will be vocal. Right, if I don't think y'all are addressing Gullah Geechee issues. But look at what kind of issues they have done. Look at that, my audience. You can actually go to the South Carolina Sea Grant website, and they have this wonderful publication called Coastal Heritage. Now, I haven't seen this. I've seen a lot of other types of more academic documents and things for field work and things for educators that are guides when we go to different conferences that other Sea Grants do. But I know that quarterly you all do this publication and people can download PDF versions. And he just mentioned about connecting to people. Look at that, the living soul of Gullah. This particular one is the most popular edition I believe y'all have ever had, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Of this publication. Yeah, haven't you won awards for that one?
Yes, ma'am, we have, and it continues to be in demand. Actually, as the Gullah Geechee, I'm going to say this wrong, but the Gullah Geechee Heritage Corridor was being developed, some of our material, including that magazine, was used as background information, so to speak, to encourage support, not from South Carolina, because South Carolina provided that support. Congressman Claiborne and
Wow.
other many others. So many stakeholders were involved in this, but it was to encourage the support from other groups that were not familiar with the Gullah, with the heritage and the tradition and the history of our state and our region. And so I think hopefully I think from what I've gathered, we've contributed to that conversation, which I'm very proud of.
Absolutely. I am too. I am too, because I'm one of those people that kept coming to your office to get boxes
That's true.
to carry around the meetings and distribute
Yes,
them.
ma'am.
I mean, I took them all over the US, and people were so proud to have them. And so I still encourage educators. And now I am a professor at the University of Minnesota right now.
Mhm.
And so I've also have in our class some downloadable PDFs
Nice.
from you all, and one of which is going to be used for our class on Reconstruction. That one. Yes. And so we have some lovely ones. And then the one that we've been, just going ahead and just teething up on the thing over this year time, because social media is just wonderful. We've gotten some pages out of the issue you did about Carolina Gold Rice.
Oh, yes.
About the African people who brought this, our ancestors that brought it. And people have been elated to see the imagery. And so that, so it's living on. It's not just these static documents, but people have taken on life, because like you said, it's about bringing the issue down to the grassroots and to the people, bringing the information, and not just kind of keeping it in academic settings, even though you have to work with academics. I know you also have to work a lot with scientists, because you're Sea Grant. So how are you going to deal with what's going on with the ocean and the waters here without doing that? And I know right now you have me serving on a couple of advisory boards. I'm happy about that.
Yeah, we are too. Thank you.
Yeah, it's wonderful. But now when it comes to the science of it all, and us looking at the coast and looking at what's happening to the coast, the many changes, what is, say, a priority for you at Sea Grant right now, with us living on the Sea Islands and in the low country of South Carolina? What's a priority right now scientifically for Sea Grant?
I think that, well, there are
So
many, but the key word, I think the word that's being used now is being resilient, is figuring out a way to live with the change.
Yes.
We're seeing lots of change. I was on a call just a few minutes ago before we joined with some of my Sea Grant colleagues from around the country. We're talking about the West Coast and the fires, and how that's affecting everyone out there. We're talking about the Hurricane Sally now in Alabama, that's hitting Alabama. There seems like one person sort of joked, but maybe tongue in cheek, but not so much, is that Mother Nature is not happy with us right now.
Exactly.
And that presents challenges for us. And it's not just understanding the phenomenon, the physical and natural phenomenon, and the anthropogenic or the man-made forces that are exacerbating what we're seeing. But it's also how we're acting and reacting from a behavioral standpoint, the social science element, that how we as people are dealing with it. This is creating some quite some concern among people about people's mental health and their ability, with the COVID over top of everything else.
Right.
There's a lot of pressures on people now from a lot of from many different directions.
At one time. Yeah.
And so we're as an organization are trying to figure out how can those pieces work together? How can we work with the scientific community to bring in not only the natural sciences, but the physical sciences and the weather science, and then the behavioral science and the psychological aspects of it.
Right.
Then bring in the history and the culture and the heritage part of it, because there are peoples that have been here who've lived through a variety of different challenges, right?
Yes, a myriad of challenges. Yeah.
So we can learn from that too. So to me, this is sort of, it's boiled up to, boy, it's all connected, and it's not just one simple answer. It's a very complex mix of influences going on, and we're sort of rethinking our strategic plan. Not rethinking it. We're working on it, but we're at a point now where we want to begin to build in the issues related to related to people's the place of people in the context of the place. So
Yeah,
it's this people and place thing, and that
absolutely.
to me that just epitomizes what the Gullah community is all about, is people in place,
Yeah.
and I just feel there's such a good connection there.
Oh yeah, that it is, and it's a wonderful connection that we normally talk about. Is you and I can walk along the shoreline and look at what we're working on, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
speaking of that connection, I know one of the things that you've really had at heart over the years is this term you call working waterfronts.
Working
And I
waterfront.
remember the first time you mentioned that to me, I'm like, "What you mean? We still work on the waterfront? I mean,
Yeah.
we still use the water. What are you talking about, Rick? You know?" So explain to me, what do you mean by working waterfronts? Because we see that a lot of our waterfront in South Carolina is being overbuilt, has already been
That's right.
overbuilt.
That's
Right.
right.
And then these hurricanes come tear it up. And we think, okay, well, they won't build that back there again. And then they go again, or they go
That's right.
worse than the first time. So what do you mean by working waterfront versus me thinking of going down with a cast net to the creek yard and things like that, and get me some working thing, but get something for Nampun? You have a different concept in mind when you talk about that, right?
No,
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 same
no, we
thing.
don't. No, we're thinking about working waterfronts from a traditional sense, because working waterfronts, and I'm not a historian, so I'll preface my comments by saying that, but I just think that in the past there has been the waterfront has been a very diverse place,
Yeah,
diverse in a lot of different ways, but certainly in terms of the let's say the businesses and the establishments that were along the waterfront. You could find everything, and a lot of those working waterfronts were waterfronts that worked off the water. They depended on the water for their work,
livelihood and their subsistence, right?
and their subsistence, and their income, and the work depended on them working and fishing or mining or whatever it might be, near shore,
Yeah,
offshore.
because phosphate mining, for
That's
instance,
right.
I
Yeah,
know
that sure
that's
was.
something we're
Yep.
talking about again. Yeah.
Yeah, and we include the coastal region too in working waterfronts. It's not just on the ocean. It's on tidal creeks and rivers and those sorts of things too.
Mhm.
But what we're seeing, I think, is a little bit more of a move. Well, we're seeing a change in our
Literally. Yeah.
waterfront environments, our
Mhm.
McClellanvilles and our Port Royals, and
Yeah.
and our Shem Creeks, and those
Yes.
places are changing quite a bit. And so the notion that we're dealing with working for waterfronts is to try to work with folks to see how we can keep the essence of these waterfronts in place. That there's still a presence of the past, even
Mhm.
though we're dealing with the present and the future. And how
Yeah.
do we build that together? And how we can integrate those past, present, and future elements, so that we don't lose the past. Some people come to the South Carolina, they come to the coast in a lot of cases because of the tradition and the history of the state.
Absolutely.
And Queen, one of the things that we built our Sea Grant program back, and I came to Sea Grant in 1980. It was just got off the ground. The state had just created this agency called Sea Grant Consortium,
Mhm.
and we decided that the essence of our program was going to be based on heritage, culture, and history, and that everything we do today has been influenced by what has happened in the past, and
Right.
what we do tomorrow is going to be influenced by what we do today. And we want to keep that connection of past, present, and future in our minds, so that as we move to the future, we always keep in mind what we've done and where we've been, what the place looked like, how it was, so we don't lose that. That's valuable information from a scientific perspective, among just to be able to base decisions about the present and future. You look at, if you don't mind, I'm going to go on a little bit further.
Yeah.
One great example for me, if people have access to the City of Charleston's website, you can find these two images on their website. There's an image of the peninsula of Charleston from 1860, and it shows the outline of the land on the peninsula, and then you look at the image of the peninsula of Charleston today, shows the outline of the land.
Right.
What we did between the 1850s and today is we filled a lot of the marshes around the perimeter of the peninsula.
Right.
A lot of the building that's going on, and a lot of the outlying areas around the peninsula are built on fill. They're built on, fill.
Landfills. Yeah.
No, those places used to be tidal creeks, and there used to be
Right.
wetlands and other things. If you look at where the flooding is occurring today
Go
on the
ahead.
peninsula of Charleston,
Yep.
it's in those areas that
Those
weren't
same areas.
land back in 1860.
Right. Water
So,
finds its own level and finds its way back home.
so you look at, that's not science per se. It is science. It can be studied, but the point is, if you look at where we were and where we
Right.
are, there's a reason why we're seeing what we're seeing
What
with
we're
flooding,
seeing. Right.
because of the way we dealt with land in the past. So
Absolutely.
that's
And
just
like
one
you said,
example. There are lots of good
love it.
examples too.
Yeah, I love it. I love that statement. There's a presence of the past in the present. I
Yeah,
love that. And that, I mean, that's a prime example using the historic peninsula of Charleston, because Charleston is being studied a great deal
it sure
by
is.
not just socioanthropologists, but scientists, climate change specialists, and so on, because of the flooding. And people, historians are looking, like you're saying, into it and going, well, this is why, and that's something that we found with the Gullah Geechee Sustainability Think Tank. The person I'm co-teaching with, our member, Dr. Kate Derrickson, we did an entire survey up and down the coast with fishermen and fishing families. And that was one of the things that came out in those focus groups from Charleston, was the fact that people were there in the focus group that said, the city ain't been this big before, right? And we all like, what do you mean? I said, look, yeah, all of that there, they fell that thing in. All with so-and-so hotel there, with this road, yeah, they ain't been there. I said, what? And so we recorded all of that at that point. But a lot of people in the current generation wouldn't have known that the city wasn't always as big as it is. You think about peninsulas and islands shrinking instead of growing. But that's a lot of how they grow, is with a lot of infill and building. But as I just mentioned, then you're mentioning with the flooding, because Charleston's known for that. We see the little, y'all funny out there. Y'all make the Photoshop of us in sweetgrass baskets looking like we're rowing boats of sweetgrass basketry down through streets of Charleston when it floods. Y'all real cute with the memes. But now, with your job with Sea Grant, how can Sea Grant, or how does Sea Grant inform the people in political office? Since you mentioned the city of Charleston, like, does any of your work help inform them and educate them in any way so that we can plan better for the future, so we can have that resilient future we're talking about? We know what happened with, like you said, with Coastal Heritage Magazine, us using it at the federal level for the Gullah Geechee Cultural Heritage Act. But what about at the local level, like in the towns and in the county? Does that influence any of those folks that have been voted into office?
I think it does, and I can use a couple different examples. One is that we've been involved with both the city of Beaufort and the county, Beaufort County, in their work on their hazard mitigation plan and their local comprehensive plan rewrite or update.
Yeah, and that's what we're working on now, folks.
Yes,
Beaufort County to have a meeting tomorrow night.
Yeah,
so
they sure do.
Yes.
So we have had staff who have actually been, are on the committees down there, and actually have been providing information about sea level rise. We're doing mapping and some work through the universities to provide that information. I know there have been one or two ordinances that have been passed based on not only our contribution. The one thing I want to say also is that the fact that there is no organization or entity anywhere that can do everything themselves.
Exactly.
It has to be done. It has to be done in partnership.
Right.
And we are really good partners, I think. And we want to be good partners. We know that our success is others' success, and we're here to make a difference for others. So the more we can bring people to the table to make that difference, the better we feel about it. So when I say these things about Sea Grant, I'm saying this as in reflecting that partnership that we have with others. But so we are working on resilience and flooding with Beaufort County and City right at the moment, and we've been there for 10 years, at least 10 years, working with them on things. Things are slow when it comes to decision
bureaucracy.
making, municipal decision making is a slow process.
Yeah, it is.
No, you're dealing with it with the current controversy right now down on the island out there.
Bay Point, yeah.
But
And
things
the
are
Fusky
slow.
now,
But
for that matter. Yeah.
yeah, and decision the process is meant to be slow because you don't want to make quick decisions. You don't know sometimes when to make a quick decision what you've really done.
Yeah, and then you can't undo it
Then
because
you can't
most of these
undo it.
government
So
plans are for 10 years and 20 years out, and you
yes,
know you can't
yeah,
wait that long because now
that's right.
you can't
Yeah.
unring the bells. Yeah.
So
Mhm.
so that's one thing we're doing. That's in our resilience area. So another thing we've done for since 1988 is sponsor a beach sweep river sweep program, which is a cleanup program once a
Excellent.
year. It's not clean, make America beautiful kind of thing. It's not, but it is a once a year event. It's connected to an international coastal cleanup event where they collect data from the people who collect the trash or collecting data, and they report the data, and then they report it back to us, and then us to the country, and then us to the country to the international group. But anyway, my point is that data has been used recently in trying to get a handle on the amount of plastic that we find along our coastline. And you know that plastics are a big issue, from cigarette butts, which are plastic. You know, the filters are plastic.
And people don't think about that. And I know you know personally. Yeah.
I do know. I knew personally. I don't smoke anymore, but I used
That's
to. But
good. Yeah.
and then we have, we have the plastic bottles, and we have nurdles, and we have all kinds of stuff going on.
And even the masks now that people are using because of the pandemic. Yeah.
Yep. So we have that, and so the data that's been collected by these volunteers, and there's all volunteers that have been doing this for years. That data is now has been used by municipalities to develop their ordinances related to plastics, and so that's another way we're helping. So our job, we're advocates for a healthy environment and a healthy economy and a healthy society, but we don't advocate for positions. We don't do that. We let the information speak for itself. So we try to generate good information, science-based information, make it available, and then folks who have to make the hard decisions,
they go from there.
Hopefully use that information as part of their consideration for decision making.
Right, for ordinances and laws and so forth. And
so
you also, so it sounds like you also have a nice balance going on with basically citizen science and also volunteers. So tell me how, if someone who's watching the show is really intrigued by that part, and they say, well, how do I do that? Like, how do I get involved when they do this annual beach sweep, or any other thing that you might want to volunteer on? Like if y'all participate with oyster reef rebuilds, is there a way to go to South Carolina Sea Grant's site and like sign up, or how would they do that?
They can do that. They can go to our website and look up Beach Sweep River Sweep, and they'll go right to the Beach Sweep River Sweep page, and they can either send an email or they can sign up. Our staff are listed there. Susan Ferris Hill is our communications director. She's the one who coordinates the Beach Sweep program for us for the South Carolina coast. So she's the point. The way it works, real briefly, is she has 100 to 125 site captains, as she calls them, people who volunteer to coordinate volunteers at each beach up and down the coast, 160 miles of beach. And then people will sign up and say, I want to work on this beach. I want to clean Folly Beach, or I want to clean, Hunting Island,
right,
or whatever it might be. And then they'll sign up and they'll be directed to this coordinator. And then that site coordinator will then sort of work the process for people. So they show up, they get material, they get bags, they get data cards where they fill in their information as they're collecting. And it's a really good exercise. It's one Saturday, third Saturday every September. We didn't have it this year because of COVID.
I was going to ask that.
But it's the third Saturday every September from 9 to 12 a.m.
Okay,
and that's it.
3
But
hours.
it's a great experience, and it's a whole 4,000 to 5,000 people participate each year.
Wow.
So on the coast, just on the coast.
To us. That's a blessing to us on the coast. So that is wonderful. So tell them, what is the website?
Our website is nice and easy. www.scseagrant.org.
Excellent. So
And
South Carolina Seed Grant, basically, y'all,
yep,
.org. Make sure you put .org, not the other ones on the
that's
end,
right.
and you'll find it and definitely sign up. So Rick, this is wonderful. I'm so happy that we had an opportunity to zoom in on what is Seed Grants
Well, thank you
and
very
help
much.
people see it more clearly here in 2020. You have any closing words before we close out today?
I think I just want to thank you and everybody who's participated in this for allowing us an opportunity to do this. There are a lot of people don't know Sea Grant, but I think you know, our work is meant to be seen, not us. I mean, if people are benefiting from our work, we're happy about that. And if they happen to know it's Sea Grant, that's a great thing. But so we just appreciate everybody's support and allowing us to do the work that we do.
Thank you. And thank you for, they always say thank you for your service. And definitely I say that. Thank you for your work over these decades. And I know you're going to semi-enjoy retirement. I don't know if you really know what that means. You're probably going to have to Google it, you know, but we know we're going to see you out more on the coast and really engaged. And God willing, that will be face to face without mask in a year or so, that we all can get back out here and just enjoy this wonderful coast that we've been fighting to maintain, sustain, and have everybody be more resilient on, and even make the coast more resilient in and of itself. So I really appreciate knowing you, appreciate working with you, and look forward to working with you some more as your retirement sneaks up on all of us. Right? It's not on you, right? You're like, nah, it's been a long time coming. But definitely we appreciate what you've contributed to our coast over all these years at Sea Grant. You've granted us an opportunity to really learn more about what they study about in the university. Yeah, especially when it comes to studying who be Gullah Geechee. And so definitely everyone who's joined us once again, if you've enjoyed this and you want to help your friends and family know now, what is Sea Grant? You have just heard it here, but you can definitely go ahead and go to gullahgeechee.tv. GullahGeechee.tv. Subscribe for free. This broadcast will be there, and then you can share it from YouTube and other places so that more people know what we're granting you by working with Sea Grant. And definitely, I'm Queen Quet, Chieftess and Head of State for the Gullah Geechee Nation. Follow our blog at GullahGeecheeNation.com. GullahGeecheeNation.com. Also follow at Gullah Geechee on Twitter and Instagram so that you can keep up with the many different things that are happening on our coast, especially with what Rick and I have talked about, keeping our coast alive, but keeping the cultural heritage alive on this coast. So we're definitely still fighting for that. And please make sure at any time you have any questions, just go ahead and email us to GullahGeeCo@AOL.com. That's the email address for the Gullah Geechee Sea Island Coalition, and we can connect you with other members also of our Gullah Geechee Sustainability Think Tank. And so thank you to all of Hunter Chillin. This year, the National Rice Month, and I ain't get to show y'all the PDF from the Coastal Heritage Magazine of that on the air right here, because I like to give you homework. So go on over to scgrant.org and download your copy and celebrate this year National Rice Month with all of we who be Gullah Geechee. We be Gullah Geechee anointed people. Stand right here coastally. Peace and blessings, everybody. Stay safe and be healthy.